Hey everybody, happy Monday. Thanks for joining us again. Brad Lyons with Independent Financial and me, your realtor, Krista Madrid at Colorado Home Realty. How's it going,
Happy
Brad?
Monday. Good. How are you?
Doing good, doing
Did
good. A
you
little squirmy in
did
my chair.
did you get sufficiently spoiled yesterday?
I got sufficiently rested yesterday, and for me, that's all the spoiling I needed.
Sometimes that's all moms want. They're like, don't make more dishes. Don't empty the pantry and the refrigerator so that I have to go buy all these other items that you just used up to try and make me food.
Yeah, or I just cleaned the kitchen. Don't go in there and leave dirty dishes.
Whose Mother's Day is this? I just want to rest.
Right. Well, it depends on who you're asking. My oldest daughter, when we used to work together, she used to say, all you mothers, and the way she said it, she didn't mean mommies. It was,
Implication understood.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, good. I'm glad you had some rest. I'm glad for that.
I
Happy
got
Mother's
some
Day to you.
great rest. Thank you so much. I hope you guys sufficiently spoiled Michelle.
Yes, we had a nice day. Thank you. Really good.
Beautiful. Well, I like your topic today, furloughing and how that affects our pre-qualifications.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to chat about this morning is just as we are starting to see humanity in America race back to normal and get back to business as usual, some things are going to still take some time to iron out, to filter out, to make sure that everybody and everything is on the same page. And one of those things is if for some example, if you're in a pre-qualification status or a pre-approved status as a borrower and you're shopping for a home, but you experienced a furlough
Mm-hmm.
during the quarantine times, it's going to be my suggestion and recommendation that you just revisit your income calculation with your lender if you've already gone through that process to make sure that they're accounting for the fact that there was a furlough there. That especially is going to affect somebody who is an hourly type employee.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they make 25 $30 an hour, whatever it is. You know the income calculation method is going to be based upon a year to date total of earnings there, and if they didn't have sick pay or vacation pay or something like that to cover the difference during that time, that's going to be all part of the consideration of what their year to date earnings were. And if they're at a debt to income ratio threshold, that could make a difference for someone. So I'm not saying that people are not qualified anymore. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that the math probably needs to be redone and understandings need to be held between a client and their loan officer to make sure that the debt to income ratio still works as is. So if you have somebody who's in an hourly position or in a tip position or in an overtime position, things like this where you're depending on that stuff monthly can
Mm-hmm.
greatly affect your debt to income ratio. And if you have a big break in that income, it's not that it's not usable going forward, it's that the calculation method may have to be changed to a year to date total versus what you were at, and you were rolling and rolling and rolling, and then you have a gap. Well, the gap has to be accounted for. It can't just be fill in the blank. It has to be accounted for in that regard. And also I want to point out that most lenders are going to require that if there was a furlough that did happen, before they can actually count that income and you can close, they're going to have on hand most likely 30 days of pay stubs from the borrower. So that's a full month of return to work from a furlough in an hourly type of income. If you're in a salary type position, that's going to be slightly different because you can say, you're back to salary pay. You're not dependent upon the number of hours that you've actually put in because you have the ability as a salaried individual to work as many hours as you'd like to without having to worry about overtime.
The ability or the expectation, which one is it?
So the salary, that's going to be intact. You might have a situation where a salaried individual who was also earning bonuses or commissions, maybe if they're a salesperson, their year to date could have been affected during this time as well. So if you're in a position right now where you've already been pre-qualified or pre-approved with a lender, and you experienced a furlough, if you were in an individual or in a joint application, please double check with your lender to make sure that your calculations don't need to be redone.
That is some excellent advice. And for those of us who are realtors, and those of you guys out there who are not utilizing me as um, your realtor should be guiding you to do so as well. You shouldn't wait until you're under contract on a property before you revisit with your lender regarding this. The last thing you want is to spend your money on inspection, appraisal, only to find out that we have to extend your closing because it can technically be safe where we're buying that 30-day time frame that you mentioned, or to find out that you no longer are approved at this point.
Yeah, I mean that could be the case, and that would be incredibly unfortunate. But we are in strange times, and this is going to be one of those things that, like I was initially saying, there, like all the filters are still kind of bubbling up as to what glasses do lenders need to look through now to make a viable decision on a loan, because they can't just make loans and then not have it backed by their investors. They have to be able to sell that loan on the secondary market. And if it's not a marketable loan because there's material findings like that missing, then that could lead to problems that they don't want to get involved with. So I would definitely encourage you to, as a borrower, to have that conversation. If you're a realtor, ask those questions of your pre-qualified and pre-approved borrowers. Did you experience an income-related loss during the quarantine? Did you have a furlough, or did you lose out on some of your commission or tip income? Do we need to revisit that? So those are important questions to ask you. You have a headache now, but it saves you from heartbreak later. So
Absolutely.
that's something that you want to try to do. It's also something, I think, as a listing agent, you can't really ask too many questions of the potential buyer in that case. But asking, you never know what the answer is if you don't ask the question. So ask if they've sought payment deferment. If especially if you're in a situation where you're selling a departure residence, you've got a contingency in place. Ask the question: Did they request a deferment on their mortgage loan or anything like that? Because you want to make sure that that's another thing that could get in the way.
So I found out earlier in the year, just by observation, that if you're going to refinance your home, you can't put it on the market for how many days?
Oh boy, you put me on the spot. It's
120?
yeah, it's something like that. It's a wild. It has to be back off the market for that amount of time before you can actually go into a full deal.
And then you can't go back on the market like the week or the month after you refinance too.
Yep.
There's some restrictions there as well. And again, all put in place to protect you, the consumer, um, from getting yourself underwater when it comes to your finances involving the roof over your head.
That's a great thing to bring up too. And like the only way that you would know that is if you knew to ask that question going in, you
Right.
know,
Well, those
and
are things that we should be asking. And for our consumers, if we're asking that, we please don't be offended. We're just looking out for you. The last thing we want to do is to help you get yourself pinned into a corner and you're saying, well, you should have told me that. You should have. We are asking you out of caring and kindness and out of love, because we truly are here to serve you with purpose and passion.
right. And we don't necessarily make up the rules there. We
Mm-mm.
just have to try to find our way through the labyrinth that exists. And those are some of the guide points that we want to try to set forth for you.
Another thing I'd like to touch on, whether you were furloughed or not, or maybe somebody in your household was, somebody was. So, where's the first place people run to when they're seeking advice. Their best friend, their co-workers, anybody who's not an expert in the field, right?
Yep. Mom
So
and dad.
if
Yep.
you're hearing questions like this, or you know somebody who's been furloughed, their hours been cut, they just refinanced their home, they're taking deferments, whatever, refer them to a real estate professional and to a mortgage professional. If they think that they're going to put themselves in a foreclosure situation, there are ways to avoid that. We can certainly help with that too. Your loan might be able to be streamlined. You might be able to sell before the bank can take over. The whole idea, we are all going to experience hurt in some fashion or another, but the whole idea is to make that hurt as least painful as possible.
Right.
And if you can certainly sell your home because you have no choice, but if you can sell it at market value and move on with some profit to put in your pocket, then that's the way to go. If you're going to experience the credit tank anyway, let's make sure you have money to recover from that. 2 more
Great
years
advice. Great
from
advice.
selling, you can requalify as a first-time home buyer again, and we'll give you some awesome advice going into that again too. We could have a game plan before your house even hits the market, before the bank gets a hold of it. There are certainly ways to be proactive without taking a credit hit.
Yeah, you don't need to take a bath on the situation. There may be some pain involved, but you can still protect your wealth.
Amen. And that's what we're all about. It's all about protecting you, your credit, your wealth, and all of those things contribute to your well-being.
Yes. Yes, and that's I think that's the next segment of our little chat this morning, is the well-being and the returning to business as usual, the returning to normal. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are just going for it like nothing ever happened, and
Or trying to catch up for lost time, maybe.
catch up for lost time. And while that's all fine and good in the normal American way, just have to kind of call to mind what we just went through as an individual, as a family, as a community, as a school, as a nation. And what were some of the things that we realized during that time of importance, and are we still holding those things true as we step forward back into normal?
Right. So we can get lost in the excuse of, I'm doing this for my family, but this stay-at-home situation actually caused us to actually get involved with our family, get to know your family. A lot of us didn't realize how much we didn't know each other. We get to know each other. I'm not only speaking for my own household, but I know there are a lot of households out there like that. And as you return to work, don't get stuck in that net of, oh, I got to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week because I've got time to make up, or I've got to do this for my family. Remember, your family is first always, and they appreciate you for what you became as a unit during that 60 days of lockup. So don't lose sight of that. If anything, hang on to that like it's sacred. And I would recommend being kind when you re-enter the world, because there are too many people that are eager from zero to not so nice in just one day.
Yeah, and that's something that if we do it out in the regular world, we're going to come back and we're going to do it inside of our family unit too.
Mm-hmm.
It's inevitable. So the choices that we make as an individual, we have to be able to embody those inside the family unit and outside in the real world, right? So we have to practice that love and forgiveness. We have to make the happiness choice to try and help out everybody along, even when it doesn't feel that great, even when you want to react and you want to strike and you want to cut the other driver off or whatever it might be in traffic. We've got to protect the good things that we laid out during this time. And one of the things that my family and I talked about quite a bit during the downtime is just giving the benefit of the doubt and giving the other person a break, because we're all in this together. We're not in the same boat. We're in the same storm, but we have to have each other's backs.
Well, not only that, I don't know if you've read the note I just posted yesterday on my business page on Facebook, but it's worth reading. It's called Nutter Butters, Captain Crunch, and Vanilla Ice Cream. It was written by our CEO at Colorado Home Realty, Matt Hudson, and it is really good. It talks about not only it talks about self-forgiveness and self-care and how we might indulge in overeating, or we might indulge in overspending because of our situation or inability to cope with it for such a long time, because it gets the best of everybody at one point or another. But how, okay, what's done is done. Don't feel guilty about it. Don't dwell on it. Just make a better choice tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And the nice thing is, just like binging or indulging or choosing to have a bad day, you can actually choose to be kind to yourself, to forgive yourself, and to be a happy person. And you saying choosing happiness, that's what drove that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The choice is always up to us of how our attitude is going to come out. And sometimes it's going to suck. And we have to be able to, sometimes we have to be willing to, accept that. But then, like you just said, we have to forgive ourselves. We have to give ourselves a break, and we have to start again. And that's the joy of being a human being, is that you get that chance to start again. So we got to be thankful that we have that chance to start again and take advantage of it.
And don't forget to be grateful for something every day, from the littlest of things to the most amazing of things. Find something every day to be grateful for, because that's going to keep us in check for sure.
Amen to that.
Well, do you have anything else, Brad?
I think I'm good.
All right. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. So just a recap: if you were furloughed, revisit Brad, revisit your loan officer, realtors, agents. If you're watching this, check in with those loan officers as well before your buyers get themselves in a pinch. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'm excited to announce that on Friday we have our next guest, Michelle Angelo. She's an author, a professional resume writer. She's a stager, a designer, and she's all around awesome. I can't wait for you to meet her, and we'll tune in on Friday to get to meet her as well.
Sounds awesome. Have a great week.
You too. Take care.